No, I'll do recording. So here's my plan for recording. I'm going to record each class and then post the recording. I'll send you all a link. I'm going to just make a shared Dropbox of class notes and recordings of the classes. I'm going to leave each class recording up. My current thinking is like for a week or two, and then take it down. This isn't to be stingy with it or anything, but just to, I want to keep a kind of flow, something like a real-time course where we're all roughly staying together, keeping up together, and being on the same page. But, I'm open to whatever is useful to you guys. Okay. Recording is happening. Cool. Well, let's get started. So I'm going to share my screen here. And hopefully sound will go through. I gave this a test yesterday. It sounds pretty good. Share computer sound. Okay, you'll see this. Great. Okay, so flow for the class is going to be a little bit of a work in progress. If I'm going too fast, please let me know, and we can, put a note in the chat and I can slow down. My hope, since I am recording these, is to not go as slow as the slowest person, but to keep a bit of a pace, and because you can always go back and check it out. But I do want to work slow enough that pretty much everybody can keep up. So what I'm going to try to do is do everything twice. I'm going to do things first where I show you, and I'll move kind of quickly, and you just watch. And then I'll do the same thing again with more narration, a little bit slower, so that you can not look at my screen, but look at your screen and listen to my direction and follow along. So yeah, let me know if it's too fast or too slow. And let's dig in. Okay, so open up Ableton. This is your workspace. There's a couple of, hold on just a second, let me pull up my notes. Yes. So I'll introduce a couple of these areas to you. Over here on the left, you have the Browse panel. It opens and closes with this triangle. And in here is where all of your content is, all of your effects, all of your instruments. If you have your own extra add-on plug-in instruments, they'll be here. And down here is a custom list of places that you can pull files from. You can just drag a folder from your Finder into this area if you want to bring in audio or anything else. Here's your main work area. And the most fundamental thing about Ableton is that it has has two different ways of working. The first of these ways is the one that looks like this. It's called Session View. And in it, tracks are vertical. And this is an environment that's really great for free nonlinear experimentation. You can just make sounds, make loops, play them in different combinations. This is where I do my sketching. Hit Tab. This is your arrangement view. You can get there by hitting Tab or by clicking these buttons up here. Arrangement view is horizontal. Each track, and these are the same tracks. See, this is one MIDI, one MIDI. These are now horizontal. And this is linear. In this environment, you decide what order things go in. Here, you don't have to decide what order things go in order to work. So you'll be switching back and forth between these two things a lot. This split, this kind of duality in the architecture is so fundamental to Ableton that the horizontal and vertical bars are the logo. Basically, this is the big idea of this program, is that you can work in these two different ways: session view and arrangement view. There's another basic duality here in Ableton and in other programs like it, which is that there's really two kinds of musical material. You have MIDI and you have audio. MIDI is like a musical score. It's a sequence of instructions of what note to hit when and how hard, but it doesn't actually involve any specific sound. So you can have MIDI material that can play all different kinds of instruments. So you have MIDI material that plays through a software instrument that turns it into sound. An audio track is the other kind of musical material, and that's just what it sounds like. It's exactly a sound, exactly the way that that sound is. So we'll be working in these two different approaches to musical content. One other core concept in Ableton is that there is a single global tempo. So let me give you a little tour up here, because these are the ways, this is how we work with tempo and metronome. All of our musical material is going to be synchronized to a common grid, a common meter. And that meter is going to play at this speed up here. So you can adjust it. Try this out now. You can adjust that tempo by clicking and dragging up and down. You can also type in a value. You can also tap a value by going 1, 2, 3, 4, boom. And now that tempo that I tapped is set here. You can set your time signature here, and this is your metronome. You're going to turn this on and off a lot. Let's see, sound. Sorry, checking this out. I can set the sound to zoom. Let's see if this works. Do y'all hear that clicking?
Yes.
Yes, great, thanks. Got a question from Devin. Should the goal here be to work alongside you and create the track that I'm creating? The first part, yes, and the second part, no. So definitely work alongside me. I want you to try the things that I'm trying. But put your own material in, pick your own sounds. You're going to end up with a different music than I'm making. There are lots of tutorials online for how to make really specific kinds of music. And you know, if you're interested in a particular genre of electronic dance music, for example, there are great resources for how to do something really specific. I'm kind of a generalist. I'm not here to teach you how to do any particular style of music, but just to give you the tools to do whatever you want. So don't make the track that I'm making. Make a track that is interesting to you. Okay. I want to show you quickly preferences. So go to the live menu. I'm not sure if this is going to show up immediately. Go to the live menu, choose preferences. I'll just talk you through it. And click on the audio panel. So if you were working with an audio interface, if you already have a bit of a studio set up, here is where you can set up your input and output. And if you click Link MIDI, this is where you can set up your MIDI controllers. a keyboard or some knobs or something. I recommend turning on remote in the remote column on the link MIDI panel for your MIDI controller, but we'll get to that more later. Cool. So I sent an email this morning about downloading some sample packs. I hope everybody did that. It's not strictly necessary. There's definitely some built-in loops in Ableton. If you didn't download a sample pack, it can be a little hard to find them here in samples. So, but they all have BPM onto them. So here's a tip. You can look in samples and type BPM, and it will filter out all of the things that are just like single drum hits and single sounds, and give you all the loops. So let's get started getting some sound going on. If you did download a pack, you'll have that, you'll have probably double clicked it from the Finder and it installed it here under packs. I got this one that I suggested. Yeah, the first thing to do is to grab one of these loops. I'm gonna find something percussive. These are drum loops, and we'll take it here and drag it here. Wild. Seeing a question here. Super loud, good to know. Maybe I can turn it down here for you guys. Yeah. MIDI port setting, I'm just seeing a question here. Let's see, you want track on and remote on for your MIDI device. You probably don't want sync on unless you're running a device that has a clock on it that you want to be the metronome for Ableton. I've never actually used sync, that's what I assume it does. Okay, so let's start by dragging actually a bunch of different things onto a couple of different tracks like this. You can drop them onto this empty space and it'll make a track. And you can put more than one thing on a track. I don't know what these are, I'm just grabbing some stuff. So here's a time when you should go ahead and do the same. You can grab some drum loops, anything else. Grab some instruments. Laura, I'm not sure what you're looking at. Is everything really big and there's just not space on the screen other than the 4 tracks that you have? Okay, hopefully now you've got a palette of loops here. Come take a look back at my screen. Okay, so each one of these loops has a play button. Each track can only play one loop at a time. If you want to overlap loops, you can play them on multiple tracks. those are the play buttons. The stop button for any track is down here. And it's also next to this pie chart that shows you loud, thank you, like relative to my voice. Cool. Yeah, so the stop button is down here along with a pie chart that tells you how far through the loop you are. Stop over here, keep things going, stop. So that's starting and stopping clips. Each one of these things is called a clip. And every horizontal row is called a scene. And each scene has its own play button. And there's a global stop button down here. It's easy to delete tracks. You just click on top and hit delete. Yes, Oliver, great question. Yeah, definitely this is what I suggest you do. Organize each track by type of sound or role in the ensemble. So you might have drums, you might have bass, you might have keys, etc. And you also can organize horizontally scenes of sounds that go together well. So we've got this, maybe this and this Rhodes. Maybe this is how you think the song start. Or, yeah. So yeah, organize things that sound good horizontally together and organize things by type or variation vertically. Yeah, these are a couple of good notes. Naming things, Command R. You can also change the color by control clicking and picking a color here. And then you can also say assign track color to clips if you want to organize vertically by color. Thanks, David. Watch for now, and let's take a moment in a minute to experiment. So keep watching here. I'll show you a few more things, and then I'll give us some time to practice. I'll just point out a couple more things here. You've got track volume down here, panning left and right, and you've got sends here to effects. So check it out over here. You have two return tracks. Reverb is on the first one, on what A, B is delay, and those correspond with these knobs. So I can turn this up, and it'll send sound from here into reverb. Reverb is like a big room sound. Delay is like an echo. So let's all take a couple of minutes and create ourselves a palette like this. You could be a little more purposeful and organized than me about types of sounds in columns. And just experiment with different combinations of loops, turning things on and off, changing the volumes, panning, effects. Let's take 2 minutes for this, and I'll call you back. Ready, set, go. Duplicate command. Great, D. Wade. Command D lets you copy a loop or an entire scene if you have the scene selected. if you want to make variations. You can also insert a scene with Command I. Devin, great question. We'll get into the mechanics of a loop next. But real fast, you can double click a loop and turn on loop and it'll make it loop, or turn it off and it'll only play once. Hey, I'm back. I don't know what happened. How y'all doing? Question from David, having trouble finding his loops. You should at least have some loops here in samples if you search for BPM. If you installed one of the packs that I suggested this morning, you'll find them under packs here. Yes, Jacob, the knobs below the tracks affect the entire track. Darren, are you trying to grab a whole bunch of tracks, a whole bunch of them at the same time? You may have trouble with that if they're clips. It may also be that you're trying to drop a MIDI loop onto an audio track, or an audio track onto an audio loop onto a MIDI track. Okay, let's move forward. Everybody getting some success making making these loops go? I just have to say, it's very weird knowing that there are a lot of you out there and not having, not like feeling you in the room or being able to gauge your response. So you can be liberal with the chat to say, hey. Cool. Next up, let's dive into one of these loops. So to open up a loop, you'll double click here on the name and it'll open down here. First thing to point out is the timeline. I'm just going to give you a little tour of this from top to bottom. First is the timeline. As I said, everything in Ableton is on a single grid, has a single meter. Though loops can have their own meter, it's still all counted along the same grid. And that grid is always represented by numbers like this: 1, 1.2, 1.3, 1.42. This is saying bar 1, bar 2, bar 3, bar 4, bar 1, beat 2, beat 3, beat 4. When you're on the timeline, your mouse is a magnifying glass. You can click, hold down, and pull down and zoom in on that spot, or pull up to zoom out. And then you'll see that it subdivides further. So this is saying bar 1, beat 1, third subdivision of that beat. It only goes down that far to 3 numbers, but this 3-number system will come up a lot. It's both here and here, bar 12, beat 3. And it's also here in these boxes. This is where the loop starts and ends, bar 1, beat 1, subdivision 1. And it's also where the loop starts and stops. The length of the loop here, 4 bars, 0 extra beats, 0 extra subdivisions of the beat. Loop is a property that can be turned on and off. If it's off, it just plays once and then is over. So continuing our tour down from the top. The second line, the colored bar, is the loop area. This is how much of the sample is actually looped. And we can change it manually like this. And that corresponds over here with this information. The position and the length starts at 311 and goes for 1 bar. So we can also change it by changing these boxes, clicking and dragging up and down, or typing in our own values, or we can do it here. So any one of these loops can actually be, let's see what this is. We'll talk about tempo in a moment. For a moment, I'm gonna just match the tempos here to hear the original. So any loop can also be any subdivision of its loop. Like that. The next row is the starting point. So the place that the loop starts is not necessarily the same as the beginning of the loop area. This is so that you can start loops either in the middle and have this be the downbeat, even though it's in the middle of the area that you want to loop, or it can be beforehand. If, for example, you want it to start here, and then when it gets here, start looping like this. The bar right below the loop bar. Are you talking about this or even below the next one? Okay, you got it. Super.
The one you just showed.
Cool. The next row is for warp markers. So let's talk about tempo and warping for a moment. As I said, everything in the program is going to play this grid at this tempo. Not every loop was recorded at that tempo. So Ableton is going to stretch or compress the audio material to fit the tempo. This is done through a process called warping. And it's another thing that you can turn off and on. When it's off, it'll just play exactly the original audio file, even if there's no, let's see, it'll play exactly the audio file at its original tempo. But if you turn warp on, then down here it's going to tell you what it thinks the original, what it considers the original tempo of that loop to be. And then it's going to stretch from there. The way that it does that stretching is through one of a couple of different algorithms. And each of these algorithms have their own flavor. So you may find, like, the most common thing is that your default is set to beats. And if you're playing something at a very different tempo, with beats mode on, then you get a much more broken up, kind of glitchy version of the sound. It doesn't sound that great. If you switch it, however, to complex, for example, you'll get a much smoother result. Complex Pro. Each of these have their own flavor and use. Texture is really great for making like glitchy electronic sounding stuff out of whatever. Yeah, I'll do one more thing and then give you a little time to practice. Starting from a fresh loop. The last thing I want to show you here on this timeline are these warp markers. So anywhere here, but especially, yeah, Ronnie, warping stretches to whatever value we input the BPM. What you put the BPM to up here. Yeah, Jacob, to play samples at their original tempos, you can either turn off warp, or you can right click at the very beginning and say warp, and then it'll give our global tempo from here, and it'll play at its original speed and map it to the grid at whatever tempo is set here. Let's see, Jacob, let me put a bookmark there and come back to you on this. We can do more deep dives on questions after the hour. Okay, so the last thing I want to show you on the timeline, and then we'll take a little time to practice, is this warp marker row. You can double click anywhere on here and get an orange bar. This is called a warp marker. And then you can move this bar to a different place. So I can say, for example, I want this note to happen on beat 3, and I want this note to happen on the downbeat of bar 2, and this to happen on beat 4 of bar 2. You can also double and halve the speed of a loop here, ×2:2. This will make it play half as fast by doubling what it considers its base tempo to be. Okay, so let's all take a couple of minutes and play with these things. So you're going to double click a loop. You're going to experiment with the loop area, with the starting point, and stretching different parts of it with the warp markers. You can also try different of these warp algorithms to hear the different flavors of stretching and squishing. And keep an eye on especially length, so that you make sure that you make round numbers of loops if you want to. It's easy to end up with like a little extra wrong-sized loop. And the easy way to check is to look down here like, okay, ready, set, go. We'll come back in about 2 minutes. Great question from Oliver. What are the tiny gray downward pointing triangles in the warp bar? So these are suggestions. It's doing an analysis and finding transients, um, which are the signals in a waveform like this of the beginning of a sound. Yeah, this is its best guess for a suggestion of where to grab to get a sound. It's its idea of where the sound starts. You can make a warp marker anywhere, but I find it is good to usually follow their suggestions. Cool, here's to Jacob's question. He's hearing everything that's playing in his whole scene when he just wants to hear one loop. Just turn off everything except the loop that you want to hear. Remember the stop button on each track is down here, or the global stop is here, and then you can just play one. Oliver, the little triangles, the suggested warp marker places, aren't so specific about on beats or off beats. It's just like where its analysis suggests that an important event is beginning. I'll show you again for Jan's question, how you get it to play and then warp a smaller segment. You want to set the warp area, the loop area to a small thing, and then take the starting point, which is this little flag below, and drag it to wherever you want it to start. Stopping and starting in order to preview a change that you just made. Yeah, so I would focus on a single loop at a time. If you have a bunch of loops happening, it's going to crowd your ear. You can do that by turning off everything. Oh, stopping and starting, spacebar. Spacebar will play whatever's green here, which is basically whatever was playing before you stopped. Does that help, Oliver? Spacebar? Okay, let's come back. I want to show you a couple more things. I want to point out to everybody, by way of answering Chris's question about flux, there's this help window down at the bottom. You can open up with this triangle. And the help window will tell you the answer to some questions like this. Okay, a couple more things before we go. I'd love to, my idea is that these classes are going to be an hour, but then I hang around for a little while to chat or answer questions or do more stuff if you want to. But we'll finish here in just a couple of minutes. But I want to get you set up for this assignment. So, first, a couple tiny more things here about editing clips. I just want to point to you what you've probably already seen, which is transpose knob. This is the gain slider that changes the volume. You can reverse a sound here. We'll play it backwards. And we'll leave that here for now. Notice that transpose also uses warping in order to change pitch without changing time, which is kind of the opposite of warping, which changes time without changing pitch. It also uses the same warp algorithm that you have here. So you'll get different results and different quality results with different of these items for your transposing. Okay. Once you have a variety of loops that you like, you can start to organize them into some sort of sequential order if you want to, by scene. You can imagine a scene being like a section of a song, and this being the array of things that you want the song to start with and then move on to, and then here's the next area, here's the next area. The next section of the song. That's one way to do it. Or you can just totally freeform this into an improvisational performance. And then you can record that improvisational performance into arrangement view. So that's the last thing that I'm going to show you here. And I haven't listened to any of these sounds, so I don't know what this is going to sound like, but I'm going to go through the process and you can do it more carefully here in a moment. Which is just this. You hit the global record button, and then everything that you do, starting clips, stopping clips, panning, volume, effects, everything that you do is going to get recorded as a performance over here that you can edit. So I'm going to just give a quick example of that here. Hit record, play. This wasn't a loop. Turn that on. How about I start again? So what I just did got recorded over here. I'm going to select all and delete it. Start fresh. Turn this off so it doesn't play right away. document at a time. Maybe now everything here on the global track. When you're done, hit stop. Hit tab to go over to arrangement view. And you'll notice that everything here is kind of grayed out. And if you hit play on a particular place, you can click and hit spacebar. You're not actually going to hear this. You're going to hear whatever's still active over here. Keep your eye open for the orange button. So this orange button means come to the arrangement. Make the arrangement that we're looking at be what we hear. It's going to make everything full color and active, and then all of these are going to turn off. So we've switched over fully into this mode when you hit the orange button, and then it'll disappear. So here I have a recording of that performance. And I'll just show you quickly a couple of editing operations. You can change the edges of these things, of these regions. You can move them. You can cut and paste. You can grab a little bit, for example, and hit Command D, and it'll duplicate it. And yeah, I think that's all we'll do today. My idea for your assignment is just to make a piece of music like this, using pre-made beats and loops. Get yourself some kind of organization here so you have a plan for what you want to do. Hit record, record yourself an arrangement. And to export it, you just select the time you want to export, go to the File menu, export. You can turn on or off whether you want an AIFF or WAV or an MP3, and export. So that's the process. I'll send you more detailed information about that in the assignment. And I just want to thank you again for joining me. Go ahead and join the Discord server if you want to chat between now and then. I want to do my next class on Friday. And stick around if you want to say hi. I'd love to see your faces and spend a little time with you. But otherwise, class is over. Thanks. Thanks, everybody. Yeah, if you would like to, if you have a couple extra bucks and you want to PayPal me, that would be awesome. I'm not doing this to try to make money, but it would certainly help me out if you have a couple bucks and you want to send it. So there's a link, PayPal link on the page. Thanks. Discord server, I will post it again here. The page where you signed up. Let me post that again. Yeah, tips for organizing samples and loops or finding them in the first place. Yeah, it can be really tempting since it's easy to download these packs, to download a bunch of them and end up with a jillion things. But let me show you how organization works in the browser. You have a user library. Let's see. So packs that you download end up here. We'll get to the user library later. This is more for things that you make yourself, which we'll do soon. But if you have stuff on your computer that you want to use, you can just drag that folder in here and navigate thus. And it also does sorting for you of all of your stuff, I think including packs and your user library in the categories here. And it organizes all that same material just by type. Um, type of sounds, types of instruments. Yeah. Last, I just suggest using the search box a lot. Like I have a folder with stuff that people have given me or that I've bought or whatever. And you know, there's a million things in here, but if I want a snare, I can just type in snare and it'll just give me those things. So I find that I use the search box a lot. Answering Vaishak's question, other tools I use for sampling. I don't think you need a sample, any extra tools. There are two really, really awesome samplers built into Ableton right away. They're under instruments as the sampler, and the simpler is actually what I use all the time. I don't actually use the sampler very much. The simpler is a really, really great instrument. You can drop a sample into it, play it like a piano. And so, yeah, I don't think you need to get anything new to do sampling. And we'll get to that maybe next time or the time after. Yeah. Oliver's question, tips for proper formatting of audio samples for use in Ableton. I think the only consideration here is quality. You know, AIF and WAV are uncompressed. And so you'll just get a better quality if you leave them in those raw formats. But it works well with MP3s too. There's nothing special you have to do. All of the stuff, everything, I don't know, all the things that you might want to do with a sample to get it, like get the timing right or change the quality or whatever you want to do with the samples happens inside the program. You don't have to format things ahead of time. Ronnie's question. Do we use warping to make clips of samples fit the current BPM of whatever music you're making? Yes, exactly. We'll do some practice with this, but you can get a head start just by dropping in your own audio into a clip area like this. Like if I wanted to take a recording of a piece of mine, I could just drop it here and pick an area. You can hit Command L to set the loop area there, and then just drag with warp markers, stretch it until a bar of the original fits into a bar here in Ableton, and then it'll sync with everything. Devin, shared resource location, poster assignments, group, and feedback. I think that's a great idea. How about I make a folder in this Dropbox folder that I'm going to make for videos and class notes and stuff that is open for everybody to add things to, and you can put things there and share links on the Discord if you want to talk about your work with other people. David, regarding MIDI controller, I have one that's just a small piano keyboard. Should I do anything before Friday to make sure it works or I know how to use it? No, your MIDI controller will just work. Unless it's broken, it'll just work. I don't think you need to do anything to be prepared. Pascal, yeah, I mean, I've only taught you how to work with loops right now, but if you want to figure out recording your own MIDI loops with software instruments, knock yourself out. Any other questions, or does anybody want to, how many of us are on right now? 38. I mean, feel free to unmute yourself if you want to say hi. Yeah, assignments due Friday. Who am I listening to right now? I mean, I'm doing a pretty deep dive right now myself in um, electronic music, produced music, because um, I don't know, I'm going to be doing a lot more of this right now. I actually have a playlist that I would love to share with you and everybody on Spotify that I've made from my other classes of music that I find really interesting for, I don't know, whenever I hear a cool track that has something about its production that seems instructive or inspiring to me, I put it on this one playlist, and I'm going to give you all that link now. Share, it's on Spotify. I'll post it on the Discord too and include it in an email. Thanks, that's a great thought. Ooh, Scott. Yeah, I've dealt with audio on Windows, and I know that it's pretty bad unless you have ASIO for all, so I'm glad you have that. I don't know the answer to your question, though, about how to make audio work from here as well. You could try, I don't know if you can run Zoom on your phone or on another machine. Yes, sorry, Scott, I don't have a good answer right away for you for that. If you figure it out, why don't you post it so other people can figure it out too? Nice, Ryan. Yeah, Devin, we're going to hit information about settings and preferences kind of as things come up. So yeah, we'll hit things as they're needed. If you have specific questions about them, I'm happy to answer them. Cool. Oliver. Oliver wants to know if we could cover at some point how to pitch bend a single note or part of a clip, like warping, but with greater detail. How about I show you this right now? We'll definitely cover it in class, but if you want to run ahead with it, by all means. I'll share the screen again. Here we go. Okay, so take a look down here. Clip, very bottom, there's this button. What it's representing is useful to think about. It's two dots connected by a line. It's two nodes connected by, it's like a representation of a breakpoint envelope, which is what we're about to do. Envelopes is a panel that opens up here. This gives you an overlay for drawing a shape in a parameter over the clip. These two menus tell you which parameter you're looking at. Clip gives you all of the options over here for things that you can change about the clip. And those options are volume, will control this slider. Transposition controls this knob. Sample offset. I've never really thought about that. Bookmark that, pause on that. But yeah, grain size and flux are available in the texture mode, and you can control those too. Oh, sample offset must be part of beats. Yeah, so let's go to clip, transposition. And now we've got this dotted blue line saying it's inactive. You can click anywhere to make a dot, and then you can move dots to make lines. You can hold down the Option key if you want to bend a line into a curve. And this is saying it's going to bend up over 9 semitones. Like that. You can also control things on the mixer, like whether the speaker is on, which is this thing, is the track active. Track panning here, volume, reverb delay, these knobs. I can say I want the reverb to do this shape over the course of the clip. Is that enough for you, Oliver? I lost my chat window, hold on.
Yeah, this is great. Thank you so much, Elliot.
Sure, you bet. Any other questions?
Thank you, Elliot.
Thank you. I'll see y'all Friday.
See you then.
Okay, goodbye.